football. Ryan joins us on 365 Sports. Hello, Ryan. Good to see you again. How the anticipation, you can imagine it was like as a player. Do you still get kind of that pumped up feeling knowing it's around the corner?
You do. It's football season, and I already have the butterflies. I look through this, and you start getting prepared for the season and thinking through the next team, and you're looking at everything, and the butterflies come back. And when you start looking what's going to happen next week, week 0 football game, obviously, and not just a football game. You're not starting against a program that you should beat. This is one that's going to be a rivalry game, week 0 to kick off football. And man, that just should bring butterflies out in itself, that game alone. And so it's a pretty special year for this, for both teams, Kansas State and Iowa State, obviously, to kick this season off in week 0. It's actually going to be extremely exciting next week.
Ryan, when it comes to on the field for this game, I like quarterback. It's a push. Offensive line, it's a push. Defensive line, it's a push. Wide receiver, even though we don't know a lot about Iowa State's, probably a push based on who's on the roster on the other side. Running back, same thing, maybe. Like, we'll see. Where does this have to come down to basically who screws up and who doesn't?
Yeah, it is. Week 1, you don't want to say that's how you're going to win a football game, but week 1, and that's what's nerve-wracking is when you come into week 1, what do you got for a football team? What's really interesting is these teams won't make mistakes. They're built on not making those mistakes. And when you look at, what's coming back at Iowa State, the wide receivers, we had a great tandem last year that ended up at the Houston Texans. So we have to replace those two guys, but we have a really veteran team coming back both offensively and defensively. You got a guy like Rocco Beck coming back at quarterback. That just gives you the calm that you need. You have a really couple nice running backs and really good tight ends coming back, and offensively, that's a good thing. And now when you look at Kansas State, they've got a lot of great things coming back with Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards and Jace Brown at wide receiver and the Oakley kid at tight end. It sounds really familiar, right? It sounds like the Iowa State team. And I think this game's going to come down to, honestly, not making the mistake. Who is the most comfortable coming into the season? Who can stay calm and treat this like a week 4 game, not a week 1 game? And again, it will be physical. It always is physical. I don't care if this game's played Thanksgiving week or week 0. This is going to be a physical game. And they want it back. I mean, if you think of the last 2 games that happened, they were really good games, very close games. One being Snowmageddon at Manhattan when it snowed forever. And it was an unbelievable game. And we pulled that one out. And last year, another massive win for Iowa State last year was a really big win. I think it was the game we went over 10 wins for the season, I believe. And again, that was a huge momentum boost for us, obviously, as well. So again, neither of these teams are built on mistakes. They're built on very well coached teams. I think who can act like they're in week 4 and not week 0.
Ryan, what comes to mind when you think of Kansas State and just the history with them and maybe your own personal experiences? Like, what pops out to you?
Bill Snyder, and thank goodness he's retired. That's what comes to mind. What he did there. It is true. I know we talked about it. You just talked about it on your show one segment ago, and I'll tell you that guy was special. What he built there. The stadium being named after the family, and it should be that he built that, and he built that program, and it's such a special place. The fan base at Kansas State is outstanding. It's actually probably one of my favorite places to play, and it was because of the fans down there. And when you look at this game, it's going to be 2 teams that are just like each other. They want to do the same thing to each other. They run a 3-man front. We run a 3-man front on defense, which is odd, and you don't see that a ton in college football. And again, there's so many similarities to these teams. It just makes for a great matchup on week 0 because it's going to be a good football game.
The midsection of the Big 12, I don't mean that in the standings. Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, which has had a pretty good rich history in football, but they have the scratch and claw to get players. And you were one of them that when you made the decision, Wisconsin was heavy in the picture. At the time, Nebraska was the best team in college football. And they are all trying to survive this new day and age of college football with Matt Campbell and Coach Leipold and obviously Chris Kleiman. Your thoughts about how they do that and how they are able to try to keep up with what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I've obviously been a little bit involved with our collective as well and kind of working through this process. And, It's not settled yet. It's not done yet. I mean, where this thing lands, who knows where it lands? And basketball, the sport of basketball is a little bit different than in football. And I'm going to kind of go back to football in a second. But basketball, you get 3 to 4 top end athletes, top end players in college basketball, and you're something. You can compete for something. College football is still about developing kids, and taking an 18-year-old body against a 22-year-old person. You may be really talented, but that 22-year-old man's gonna show you something. That offensive line has to be developed. That defensive line has to be developed. And when you look at Iowa State, uh, for example, this year in football, we have, I believe, 7 to 8 players that we brought in the offseason. It's not 62. It's a program where we're going to develop kids. And, when you look at what's in the Midwest and you look at Kansas being the same way, and you look at Iowa being the same way, it's a state full of 4 sport athletes. They're not the peak athletes, football players at the time that they come into the program. They were playing baseball in the summers. The next thing you know, they're in 2-a-days at Iowa State. And next thing you know, they're starting football. And that happened to us last year at linebacker, where we had so many injuries. But the program at Iowa State and Coach Campbell, what he's built this on is a developmental program for ourselves. And I think that's the key. You don't want to become the developmental program for the XYZs. And I think that's really how we survive in this, is recruit at a high end. And I think we're getting kids out of high school that are maybe higher tier than we did in the past, because teams are so enthralled with this transfer portal. You may be able to grab a couple of kids you couldn't have got before. You get them in the culture in the program, get them on the field, and here you go. You got a shot. Because what you're seeing too, when kids leave and they do hit the transfer portal, it doesn't work out every time. And eventually that's going to bite kids in the rear, and they're going to be put in a worse situation than they were when the seat that they were in at the program they were at. And I think that has really benefited us at Iowa State. We've had a lot more draft success in NFL draft success recently in this era of NIL and transfer portal because of that. We have higher end athletes coming in. And again, the ability to retain those athletes has been really good for us.
Okay, there are not very many protected rivalries in the Big 12. I think there's only 4. As a matter of fact, Iowa State does not have one. It should be absolutely 1,000,000% Farmageddon should be a protected rivalry. If you they said, Ryan Harklau, you're our guy on this. Tell us when the 2 big rivalries or the big rivalry for Iowa State should be played. Should it be Thanksgiving week, rivalry week all the time, or should it be just as long as it's protected and they play every year?
I'm as long as they play every year, I'm good with that. It would be nice to be at the end of the year. I think this game should be at the end of the year. That Thanksgiving week, rivalry week. I just believe this game should be there. I hate to see this happen. This is one of the times you want to have you want Yormark to step in and like do something about this thing before you break a streak that was fantastic. And it's 2 agricultural schools, land grant schools. It's save something, save this thing, save some sanity in college football right now. And this is one of them you could keep alive. But this would be the one I would say, I think you throw this thing into rivalry week and keep it. Honestly, like I said, I don't care what week it is. If it hurts their scheduling, I don't care. Just keep this rivalry alive. It's 2 programs that have fought their backsides off to become relevant. Now they are relevant. They're both in the top 25. They're both competing. They both have a ton of talent. They're built very similarly. This is something that people will pay attention to, because there is so much talent and there is a rivalry here. And I think it's really hard to see this game go away. And it would be nice if we could find a way to figure this thing out in the next this year. Obviously, we got to figure it out this year to make sure this thing stays alive.
So, Ryan, you've talked about it, and one of the things a lot of people have talked about with Iowa State is having that consistency, that culture, to not be all caught up in the transfer portal and to feel like you can go and replace guys. And they got a couple of bad dudes that are now in the NFL that have gone on to greener pastures at wide receiver. What's your confidence level, and who's stepping up, and kind of who do you expect to step up in the absence of Noel and Higgins and obviously the production that they brought?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if our offense coordinator has his way, who's also the tight ends coach, he'd go 5 tight end sets somehow. I don't know how, but he'd do it. It is the deepest room in the building is our tight end room right now. I think there's probably 3 NFL tight ends in there right now. 2 of them would be playing most of the downs. I think you'll see 2 tight end sets most of the time. Gabe Burkle, who came on really strong at the end of the year, and then Ben Bramer, who most people don't probably recall, he had a great freshman year, got hurt early last year, and didn't play much last year. His high end is extremely high, really big, good running athlete, good blocker, point of attack, and that's what's good. That's where a lot of the pressure is going to come. Is I think that tight end position is going to be really key for this Iowa State offense because the defenses, if you want to stack the box, they have some speed on the outside. And I know you're asking on the wide receiver spot. I just think that tight end is going to play a big role. But we had a transfer in of Chase Sowell out of Eastern Carolina that I think will play a big part in this. Really, really nice transfer. We did get that kid to come in this year. And Xavier Townsend, another transfer in who came from Central Florida. He was originally a commit to Iowa State 3 years ago, went to Central Florida, had a nice start to his career there, and then transferred in this year. He actually played high school football with Rocco Becht, and he is pretty special. He has a lot of the Jalen Knoll tendencies, and I think by the end of the season, he's going to be a mainstay for Iowa State offense.
Ryan, you were a part of a team that broke, I think it was a 20-plus year drought of not only a bowl win, hell, there were no bowl appearances. Iowa State has had their moments where they've had a team pop up or two, but you picked them, and Dan McCarney was the reason when you met him. 9-3, beat Pitt in Phoenix, I think, in the bowl game. What was it like to be a part of that turnaround?
It's been a gift for the rest of my life, to be honest with you. And what you will learn, and what I learned through that process is, and it applies to life, is your details away from success. You're very small away from success, but you got to believe first. It doesn't matter about anything. You have to believe that you can get it done. But then once you find out what the details are it takes to get over the hump and the little extra work it does to get over the hump to have success, that's what I really found. I still apply it to today's world and the working world for me. I think that, our junior year, 1999, I would say that team is maybe, I don't want to say more talented. It was just as talented as a team that won 9 games the next year, and we won 4 games. But it was this: we didn't make the play when it mattered, winning plays when it mattered. And I think when we went into 2000, we talked about it in the offseason. You got to make winning plays when it matters. And last year's team, look at Iowa State's last year's team. They won 11 football games. There's about 7 to 10 plays that go from 11 wins to 7 wins. You're on the ropes on a lot of different games, but they made the play when it mattered. At Iowa, they make that last drive and kick a 53-yard field goal to beat them. And Central Florida make a last-second drive to beat them. And Baylor block a punt, and return it for a touchdown to beat them. Like, there's plays along. Those are the little things along the way that you have to work towards and understand. You have to make those plays when it matters, and that is the difference between 7-4 and 11-3. I mean, it is so small. You just got to be willing to pay attention to the details and make the play when it's your turn. It is a really fine line.
Is that what makes the Big 12, Ryan, from when you played back then, the Big 8? Or no, it was still Big 12.
Big 12,
but what makes it so competitive is that so many teams that look like you're looking in the mirror, and it's just fine line of one play.
I love the Big 12 right now because of that. There's all this money behind the University of Texas, all this money behind the University of Oklahoma, and it's always like, oh, you got these two and then everyone else. I think everybody else right now is pretty fantastic. I can name 7 teams right now that I think should probably be listed as number 1 preseason for the Big 12. And I don't want to give them to you, but I think Iowa State is one of them without a doubt. They deserve to be up there. I don't know how you take Arizona State off of there. They were there and won it and should have beat Texas in the playoffs. And so, but I will tell you, what's going on at Texas Tech right now is unbelievable. I think Baylor, you guys went on a run mid-year that shows that you're you have the players and ability to get to where you need to get to. And Utah still has athletes all over that field that they can do some things with. But that is what's going to be so fun and why week 0 is so important to Iowa State and Kansas State. This game, like last year, everything came down to these tiebreakers to get to the Big 12 championship game. You're starting off Kansas State, Iowa State. The winner of that game already has more than a 1-game lead. It's like a 1.5-game lead in the conference because that's probably going to be a tiebreaker game at some point. You got to think.
Rocco back to is and I think we talked about this last time. He's so great in crunch time and all these things. Do you think he'll be able to cut down on maybe some of his recklessness so that he doesn't have to be as great in crunch time? Like that's the next conceivable step for him is take away some of the mistakes you make early so that you don't have to be in a drag race in the fourth quarter.
That would be great. You know, the number one person that would tell you he needs to do that is his dad. Anthony Beck, who coaches the St. Louis Battlehawks, and obviously a Ring of Honor guy for the New York Jets. But I ran into him in the Utah airport before we played Utah last year at Salt Lake City, and he goes, "We got to get Rocco to quit throwing these pick sixes." And his dad says that. I got a kick out of it. But yeah, he has that gunslinger mentality, and it's you don't want to take the fight out of the dog a little bit, but at the same time, there's probably some decisions he can make that you don't want to give up that pick six. It's not just the interception. He had, I don't know, 4 pick sixes last year, I believe, and it's the interception, but it's points immediately, and that did put us behind a couple times. One at Utah, obviously, that just really makes it hard. And he's a great player. If you get to the end of the game and you're tied, I don't know of a quarterback you'd want back there more than Rocco Beck because of his resume, what he's done when he's been in that situation. He came through every time he was in that situation. But yeah, he mid-game, I will tell you the game right now to him is really slow. You go to practice, he's a different kid this year, which is a great sign. The game is really, really slow to him, and I think that's a good sign to what you'll see from him.
Were you really a 6'4", 235-pound middle linebacker?
I was out of high school. Yeah, that's
a big body right there for a middle linebacker, the height and the weight.
It was, and at that time it was big. We had big ones, and actually out of a small county in the state of Iowa, Humboldt County, two of the 3 starting linebackers were out of this county. I think it's 15,000 people. Derek Clark was the other one, and he was Big 12 newcomer of the year, and that would have been in 1997. And then I was a starting middle linebacker, and he would have been 6'5", 245. So yeah, we grow him big around here.
Well,
but
and you turned into a lineman because the depth, and they needed you to do that. What was and I'll let you go. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. How much did you eat McDonald's? What was an order? How many times a day did you go by there? With Big Macs, quarter pounders with cheese? What was it?
Every day I went to McDonald's. The biggest mistake in my playing career that I regret, but at the time we didn't know any different, is my diet. And I looked back at what they're doing now for the team. Iowa State currently has 3 dietitians that travel with it on the road, and they're talking about sleep, they're talking about food, how they load their body the day before, the morning of, and the midday of. And here I am, honestly, 235, went to 305 was my top weight when I ended up in Jacksonville. And man, I was eating McDonald's, every single day before practice, and looking back is how stupid. You're doing everything you could to put weight on, but it was not the way you needed to do it. And so, yeah, my McDonald's bill was pretty hefty. I can tell you that dollar menu became a friend of mine.
Did they know? Did they know you?
Oh, absolutely. Literally every day. And then on Fridays, hey, good luck this week in Waco, or good luck this week in College Station, whatever. They knew who we were. We drive. My roommate and I would run through, drop it off in the car. And I'm serious. We would probably order 5. So then the quarter pounders were $1 at the time. 5 of those babies. And we would pick them up from class, eat them on the way to practice, and go to practice after 5 quarter pounders and some fries.
Oh, that probably didn't feel good later.
No, you're young and dumb. You didn't know what felt good at that time in your life.
Exactly. NIL money would have helped, right? Back dollar or not. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. Are you going to Ireland, or are you going to be around the States?
Unfortunately, due to work for I call it my real job, my day job, I have to be at some board meetings in Idaho, and I cannot get home, and they start Sunday. I cannot get home in time. So it's the first game I'm going to miss in 5 years. So
okay,
I hate that I'm not going to be there, but I'll be there the rest of the season on the sidelines and pregame show and postgame locker room show for them.
That's what I thought. That's right. Ryan Harklau, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Great stuff. We'll be in touch.
All right, guys. Always enjoy it. Have a great day.